Hello, everyone, and I'm happy to have my right-hand person, Premier Legault, with me. We make great partnerships, and we're both business-minded people, and I always rely on Premier Legault for the numbers. He's an accountant. He knows these numbers inside and out, so we've had a long friendship and a long partnership. Following our meeting with Prime Minister Carney, the Premier's heard from former Ambassador Gary Dewar and David McNaughton. They gave us some great advice. David was part of the USMCA deal on the last round, and it was good, sound advice. But what we're hearing from everyone, no matter if it's the ambassadors, the premiers, the Prime Minister, First Nations communities, that we have to move faster, quicker, immediate. We can't be delaying this. We should have been doing this decades ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And there's one thing we can thank President Trump for, is getting us moving, getting us united like I've never seen before across the country, and focusing on large infrastructure projects, be it building large-scale nuclear, small modular reactors, wind projects out east, hydro and other areas, and I'll let Francois speak about the projects in Quebec, the road to the Ring of Fire, making sure that we get moving on the critical minerals, getting rid of the red tape and regulations, and building potential pipelines north, south, east, and west, building rail across our country. And right beside that, putting possibly hydro lines along the rail lines, along with pipelines. So there's a lot of infrastructure happening and a lot of talks happening, and we need to get moving as quickly as possible. We talked about the emergency service, wildfires. Every single year we see wildfires, and I want to thank Premier Canoe for leading that charge. Manitoba's getting hit very, very hard. We have our wildfires every single year. Matter of fact, there's not a province around that doesn't get hit by the wildfires. We know when they're coming. We need a national strategy as well on that. We have to make sure that we continue putting pressure on de Havilland to build these water bombers a lot faster than what they're building right now. It's approximately a 4-year wait. We can't be waiting that long. So we're getting a lot of areas covered. We also spoke regarding the U.S. trade that we'll see what happens on August the 1st. We're all standing united right now, and we need to unleash every tool we have in the Canadian toolbox. We can be the most safest, number one, but the most prosperous, the wealthiest, the richest country on this earth. We can lead the G7 in economic growth, but we need to get the regulatory burdens out of the way. We can't be taking years and years to get things done. We should be getting things done, moving shovels on the ground in months opposed to years, and move a lot quicker than what we're moving right now. But I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Premier Legault. Thank you, Premier.
Just take my note. That's okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Je veux commencer par remercier Doug pour son accueil. On a commencé à Toronto dimanche dans un excellent restaurant. On a continué hier soir, puis on a eu des belles rencontres depuis 2 jours, puis ça va se poursuivre demain. Puis ça fait effectivement longtemps qu'on travaille ensemble, et tout le monde le sait. Comme bien du monde, j'ai son numéro de cell, qui est toujours disponible, 724. On a rencontré ce matin le premier ministre du Canada, Mark Carney, essentiellement pour parler de 2 choses. D'abord, parler de projets majeurs. On le sait, peu importe ce qui arrivera avec les discussions avec Donald Trump, c'est important, c'est urgent même, je dirais, d'accélérer des projets dans les minéraux critiques, dans les ports, dans ce qu'on appelle au sens large la sécurité, mais aussi dans le secteur de la défense, compte tenu de ce qui se passe avec Donald Trump. Je pense qu'il ne faut pas être naïf. Il faut investir davantage. Puis les premiers ministres des provinces appuient la décision de M. Carney d'augmenter de façon importante les budgets en matière de défense. Évidemment, M. Carney souhaite que ces projets-là se réalisent rapidement. On est 100% d'accord avec ça. Donc, on souhaite qu'il y ait un projet, une évaluation. Bien sûr, dans notre cas, on veut absolument que l'évaluation soit faite par la province. Je veux dire un mot sur les pipelines. Beaucoup de choses qui se sont dites. Je veux répéter ce que j'ai déjà dit. Le Québec est ouvert à analyser des projets de pipeline en autant qu'il y ait des retombées économiques. Donc, il faut qu'il y ait d'abord un projet, des projets concrets, financés. Puis deuxièmement, il faut qu'il y ait des retombées économiques pour le Québec. Entre autres, un des enjeux, c'est que si jamais il y a un pipeline, on voudrait utiliser un port du Québec plutôt qu'un port de l'Atlantique. Bon, évidemment, on va continuer d'avoir des discussions si il y a un projet qui est présenté. Peut-être un mot sur la défense. Dans le passé, le gouvernement fédéral, lorsqu'il a investi en défense, a beaucoup investi dans des compagnies américaines. Vous vous rappellerez que Doug et moi, on avait pourtant demandé, dans le cas de Bombardier, qu'il y a des usines au Québec et en Ontario, de privilégier des entreprises qui ont des usines au Canada. Malheureusement, ça n'a pas été fait. Mais ce qu'on a compris, en tout cas ce que j'ai compris de Mark Carney aujourd'hui, c'est qu'à l'avenir, tout l'argent qui est proposé en défense va être investi pour augmenter la base industrielle au Canada. Donc, que ce soit avec des entreprises américaines ou des entreprises européennes, on va exiger qu'il y ait des retombées dans le secteur manufacturier au Canada. Je le répétais, je donne l'exemple du Québec. Bombardier, actuellement, a des projets pour créer jusqu'à 18 000 emplois au Canada. Et les chantiers Davy, donc dans les navires, les sous-marins, ils ont des projets en défense pour créer jusqu'à 12 000 emplois. Donc, il faut vraiment privilégier les emplois créés au Canada. Pour ce qui est des résultats des négociations avec les États-Unis, évidemment, on attend les résultats du 1er août. C'est la semaine prochaine. On souhaite, puis je pense que M. Carney vous le dit, d'obtenir le meilleur résultat possible, mais on veut aussi de la prévisibilité. Ce qui nous fait le plus mal actuellement, c'est le fait que M. Trump change d'idée continuellement. Donc, les investissements des entreprises ne sont pas au rendez-vous parce que les gens d'affaires attendent de voir ce qui va se passer dans ces négociations-là avec les États-Unis. Bon, puis évidemment, vous ne serez pas surpris que le Québec a demandé, puis je pense que Doug aussi est d'accord avec ça, qu'on protège la gestion de l'offre, entre autres dans le secteur laitier, et au Québec, qu'on protège l'exemption culturelle. Merci.
Well, thank you, François. I think you said a few nice things about me, didn't you? All I heard is Doug. Okay, I'm just checking.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can line up the mic behind the microphone and ask their questions through there. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Premiers. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. Maybe you could both answer this question. I mean, part of this meeting was intended for Prime Minister Carney to update you on the status of the negotiations with the U.S. So what was the message? And do you feel that things are going well, or is it a little bit uncertain right now as to how it's going to pan out?
Well, he did explain how they're going. I don't want to jeopardize his negotiations by divulging everything. But again, if I can say this, Donald Trump is very, very hard to deal with, just because it's so fluid. It's constantly moving with him. But we have a strong plan moving forward, and let's see what happens on August the 1st. I have all the confidence in the world in the Prime Minister and all the premiers working together, and that's where we're at right now on that. But unfortunately, if I divulge anything, it'll just jeopardize the Prime Minister's negotiating powers.
Agree with that. I agree.
Oh, no, it was very positive. We have a strong plan in making sure that we get our economy going. That's one of our biggest defenses, and making sure we get items moving forward. And even on defense, with our NATO commitment, that should be tied into the economy. And no matter if it's building ships at Navy shipyards or Heddle shipyards in Ontario, and I think they're working together, or out in Nova Scotia or in BC, looking at General Dynamics in London to light armored vehicles. So we can tie all this in to the economic growth as well.
Hi, Premier. Jack Howan from the Trillium.
Hi, Jack.
I'm wondering if you received any firm commitments from the Prime Minister on any of your priorities that you've put forward recently, such as manufacturing, onshoring, I-beams, aluminum cans, that kind of thing?
Yeah, actually, there was a lot of commitments and support of saying, yes, let's get it done. Let's attract companies, no matter if it's I-beams. We found out that, I believe it was New Brunswick, said they had a company, an I-beam manufacturer there, some rebar out in Manitoba. But we have to make sure that we have the capabilities to start onshoring everything we possibly can. And that really is a message to all the big retailers too, the top 5 food retailers. Then you have the other retailers, the Canadian Tires, Home Depots, Oronas. Let's start buying Canadian. If we can't make it, there's nothing we can't make here in Canada and Ontario and Quebec. So we need to make sure that everyone focuses on that. And who can play the biggest role is the population, the 41 million people that are out there shopping, sending letters to the big retailers across the country demanding that they buy more Canadian goods. I can tell you, you're going down the aisle and, a Canadian-made part or widget or food is 5 cents more than getting it shipped in from the U.S. I bet my bottom dollar every single Canadian would pay that extra 5 cents to keep the manufacturing here.
Hey, good afternoon, Premier. It's Colin DeMello from Global News. This is a question for both the premiers. So there seems to be a lot of jockeying for position in terms of which project is the best project for the Prime Minister to select. I'm wondering, what criteria do you think he should use? Should it be by the population size, or should it be by the strength of the project itself, or how many provinces are working together? Because it seems like there is going to be a little bit of infighting between the provinces when it comes to these projects.
I think whatever benefits all of Canada, and we talk about pipelines, that benefits everyone. We talk about rail, that benefits everyone. We talk about critical minerals, again, that benefits everyone. When we talk about national defense, it benefits everyone. So there's quite a few items that we look at. I always ask myself, what is the ROI, return on investment? How many jobs are we creating? What's it costing us? What are they investing in? How long are they going to be here? And that's what we ask ourselves, but I'll hand it over to François.
I have nothing to add. Maybe you should ask this question to Mark Carney. Yeah.
Bonjour, Sébastien Desrosiers de Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour vous, Monsieur Legault. On vous a entendu dire un peu plus tôt qu'il fallait une entente avec les États-Unis le plus rapidement possible pour mettre fin à l'incertitude. Puis, Monsieur Carney arrive et nous dit, écoutez, il ne faut pas une entente à tout prix. Alors, ça nous laisse l'impression qu'il est un peu moins pressé que vous. Je serais curieux d'entendre votre perspective. Est-ce qu'il est mieux d'avoir une mauvaise entente ou pas d'entente du tout?
Bien, écoutez, d'abord, on va attendre de voir ce que Mark Carney va nous présenter le 1er août, s'il y a une entente. Et puis là, on pourra juger, effectivement, si ça vaut la peine de s'entendre là-dessus ou de continuer les discussions. Mais c'est difficile, là. Il y a tellement de choses qui sont hypothétiques. On aimerait avoir une entente idéale le plus vite possible.
Hi, this is Mickey with Politico. My question is for both premiers, actually. There appears to be some tempering of expectations that a deal would be reached on August 1st following your meeting with Mark Carney. And Ford, you obviously just mentioned that Donald Trump is very difficult to deal with. So my question to both of you is, how realistic is it to actually get a deal by August 1st?
I think it's realistic, but the president's just so unpredictable, and we've seen it over and over again. Yeah, you talk to him one day, and all of a sudden the next day he's on some media outlet saying there's 35% tariff. So he's unpredictable. But we have to focus on what's going to strengthen our country. That's onshoring as much as we can, and I keep using the I-beams and aluminum cans, but there's dozens and dozens of other areas. And make no mistake about it. Donald Trump does need Canada. He needs the oil, he needs the potash, he needs the uranium, he needs the high-grade nickel, he needs the aluminum from Quebec, just to name a few. So we look forward to using our strength in negotiating. And you know what else is a big strength? Let's start negotiating with the rest of the world. It's always better to have a deal with other people, and it really wakes up the person that you're negotiating with. So reaching out to our tariff-free countries, our partners. Again, I think it's 51 different countries or 57, I'm not too sure, but there's quite a few of them. They want to work with us. God bless them. We welcome the trade right around the world. That strengthens our stand.
It's very tough to answer your question because, of course, we would like to have the ideal deal the fastest possible, but what can we get? You almost need to ask Donald Trump, and I'm not even sure that he knows himself what he wants. So not easy to answer your question. Of course, like I've said yesterday, the uncertainty right now hurts a lot the Canadian economy. We see that the private investment are not growing because everybody's on pause. They wait to see what will happen. It's about the worst thing. I've been in business about the worst thing you can have. It's uncertainty. So, but once this is said, what is acceptable, what is better, I'm very anxious to see what will be presented on August 1st.
Toujours M. Legault, Boris Proulx du Devoir.
Oui.
Monsieur Legault, est-ce que les premiers ministres ont abandonné leurs revendications traditionnelles sur les transferts en santé, par exemple? Et si vous en avez parlé à M. Carney, pourquoi ça ne figure pas dans votre communiqué?
Oui. C'est pas, je pense que c'est un des sujets qui va être discuté demain, la santé. On va revenir à la charge. Bon, en même temps, on voit très bien les engagements de M. Carney en défense. Si vous faites un petit calcul rapide, il va y avoir une augmentation importante du déficit à Ottawa. Bon, je sais qu'ils sont en train de demander une réduction de dépenses pour cet été. Pour avoir joué dans le film, c'est plus facile à demander qu'à réaliser. Mais on va continuer parce que le fédéral ne fait pas sa part en santé. Donc, on va continuer à demander une augmentation des transferts sans condition du gouvernement fédéral pour qu'il fasse sa part en santé, parce qu'à long terme, c'est le plus grave problème qu'on a de financement, parce que à cause du vieillissement de la population, des nouveaux médicaments, les besoins augmentent plus vite que les revenus. Donc, c'est un sérieux problème pour toutes les provinces.
Bonjour, M. Legault, M. Ford. Ouais. M. Legault, la question de l'aide apportée à l'aluminium, M. Carney, tout à l'heure, a dit qu'il va annoncer bientôt, là, au cours des prochaines semaines, des programmes d'aide pour l'industrie de l'aluminium. Il y a déjà de l'aide pour l'automobile, pour l'acier, mais il n'y a rien pour l'aluminium en ce moment, également le bois d'œuvre. Comment vous accueillez ça? Parce que, évidemment, ce secteur-là, c'est le Québec davantage qui va en profiter, là. Alors, est-ce que l'aide arrive trop tard? Comment vous entrevoyez ça? Et est-ce que vous en avez discuté avec monsieur?
Oui, parce que, bon, quand on regarde actuellement les tarifs qui sont en vigueur, il y en a dans l'auto, il y en a dans l'aluminium, dans l'acier, dans la forêt. Bon, puis en plus, dans le secteur de la forêt, au mois d'août, on passe de 14 à 34 %. Donc, c'est certain qu'il y a besoin d'aide dans toutes les industries. Dans l'aluminium primaire, puis je précise bien primaire, il n'y a pas de surcapacité dans le monde. Donc, ce que ça veut dire, c'est que les plus pénalisés vont être les Américains, à commencer par Ford et GM, qui vont devoir payer leur aluminium 50 de plus. Évidemment, ça va faire baisser éventuellement la demande. Donc, il y a un risque que ça réduise le nombre d'emplois. Donc, on va regarder on regarde déjà pour des programmes. Mais il y a aussi tout l'aluminium secondaire, l'acier secondaire, les problèmes aussi, puis il y a des premiers ministres qui ont mentionné, dans les composantes, les contre-tarifs qu'on a, parfois viennent nuire aux entreprises qui n'ont pas d'alternative pour certains produits au Canada. Mais il faut aider tous les secteurs, incluant l'aluminium, mais l'aluminium est peut-être dans une situation un peu spéciale à cause de l'équilibre entre l'offre et la demande.
Bonjour à vous deux. Thomas Laberge, en Presse Canada. Monsieur Legault, j'aimerais juste avoir une précision par rapport à ce que vous avez répondu à mon collègue du Devoir sur les investissements militaires du fédéral. Donc, vous pensez que ça va empêcher le gouvernement fédéral de résorber son déficit et ce qui pourrait même le creuser? Est-ce que c'est ce que je comprends? Et peut-être, si je peux juste me permettre, est-ce que vous avez obtenu des garanties de M. Carney sur justement la défense pour le Québec?
Bon, d'abord, j'ai, comme vous, lu les engagements de Mark Carney en défense pour le Canada. Maintenant, je pense que le Québec est bien positionné avec des entreprises comme Bombardier et Davy, puis je pourrais en nommer d'autres, le CA électronique, etc., pour profiter de ces investissements-là. Maintenant, oui, ce sont des investissements importants, mais je pense que ça peut même aider dans les négociations avec les États-Unis, cette annonce-là. Puis c'est quelque chose qui était demandé par tous les premiers ministres des provinces.
Mais ça va creuser le déficit, selon vous?
Bien, écoutez, c'est des augmentations. Juste cette année, on parle de 8-9 milliards. Puis ensuite, bien, on monte graduellement à 5 du PIB. C'est beaucoup d'argent. C'est beaucoup d'argent, mais c'est nécessaire.
Est-ce que vous avez des assurances de M. Carney pour la part que peut recevoir le Québec dans ces dépenses?
Ça va faire partie des discussions qu'on va avoir dans les prochains mois, dans les prochaines années. Ouais.
Merci.
Next question.
Bonjour, Myrna Djukic, Radio-Canada. If I'm not mistaken, you've now signed, it's for both of you, vous pouvez rester là, Monsieur Legault. You have now signed MOUs about trade with almost every province except Quebec and Newfoundland. So, bluntly put, what's the hold-up? Et Monsieur Legault, qu'est-ce que ça prendrait pour que vous signiez un tel accord?
I have all the confidence in Premier Legault. He's just a great person. No, you're a great person, smart business person. You know, he understands what's at stake. He wants prosperity for the people of Quebec. And when Quebec and Ontario prospers, the whole country prospers. So I'm confident we'll sit down and really hash out a deal. I'll pass it over to you, François.
Yeah. OK. Bien, la façon qu'on a décidé de fonctionner au Québec, c'est qu'on a déposé un projet de loi 112, qui atteint le même objectif, c'est-à-dire qu'on s'assure que si un produit est accepté dans une autre province, il va être accepté au Québec, puis ça touche aussi à la mobilité de la main-d'œuvre. Maintenant, c'est un projet de loi qui n'est pas voté, évidemment, puis il y a des journalistes du Québec qui sûrement comprennent qu'il va y avoir des gens en commission parlementaire qui vont poser toutes sortes de questions, peut-être des groupes, des lobbies qui n'aimeront pas le projet de loi, mais j'ai la même intention que Doug, c'est-à-dire que les produits puissent circuler à la grandeur du Canada. On perd en partie accès au marché américain. Donc, c'est une très bonne idée que chaque province a accès aux autres provinces et territoires. Donc, on est d'accord. C'est juste sur la façon de le faire. Nous, on a déposé un projet de loi, le projet de loi 112. On espère être capable de le voter le plus rapidement possible à la rentrée.
Hello, Premier Ford. Michael Serapio with CPAC. I'm hoping you might that you can build a bit, Premier Ford, on the briefing that you had from the two former ambassadors to the U.S., Mr. McNaughton and Mr. Doerr, because it seems from the brief answer you did give, the advice is to take. Canada needs to take a more defensive position, a more protective decision in this moment in time. Is that fair? Could you talk a bit more about the advice you were given?
Yeah, they basically gave us advice based on the last trade deal, gave us advice on, making sure the same, advice that I've heard prior from them. Let's diversify our trade. They're really, really happy about hearing how quickly we made the agreements with 10 other provinces, that the free trade is absolutely critical. It will boost our economy, boost our GDP. So it's never just one thing. It's a great question, but it's never one thing. It's a multitude of different areas. And again, what they said is you got to stop talking. Let's start moving. I mean, I'm hearing this constantly from everyone. And so that's what we need to do. We need to be united and start moving. Also about creating the environment and the conditions for companies to come here and invest. And I'll give you the numbers. Direct foreign investment in Ontario numbers came out for 2024. 409 companies invested into Ontario, a total of $39.78 billion, and creating 25,000 jobs. It's no different than when you're out there shopping. You have a great store, they have great products. You're going to go in and buy their products. And that's what we need to do right across the world. There's a lot of people, a lot of countries, I should say, with a ton of money that are interested in our critical minerals and our energy and our small modular reactors and just the climate right here. They look at us as a safe haven to invest their billions and billions of dollars. And as I was out in the Calgary Stampede, I met with a lot of energy companies saying, we're investing 10, 20 billion down in the U.S. and Texas and North Carolina. We want to invest here in Canada, but we can't be waiting around with all the regulatory burden on our backs. We need to move quicker. So I think the message that we're hearing from absolutely everyone, including people on the street, you go down the street, let's start moving, you're doing great, keep going. People know we're in a fight. We're in a fight like we've never been before, but we have all the tools. We have the opportunities. Do you know the biggest problem is government? Government is the single largest problem in moving things forward. It's not the people, it's not the private sector, it's not First Nations, it's not unions, it's none of that. It's government, endless decades of bureaucracy and regulations. I'm going to tell you one quick story. So we can make 42-inch diameter pipe here to build the pipelines. Well, forever we heard you need 44-inch diameter. So we're thinking we're 2 inches off. We're out in Alberta, we talked to the energy folks and they said, we don't care if it's 42 or 44, it doesn't bother us. We dig into it. It's an old regulation, it's been around for decades at the federal government. And I told Mark that yesterday, I told the Prime Minister that yesterday, and he said, well, let's change it. But who would ever think that it's been buried away in some regulation and is buried away for no reason? So, that makes a big difference. Talking to our folks in the steel sector as well, making sure that we get our steel I-beams or any steel products shipped right across the country, working with companies like CN to make that happen. But we are an economic powerhouse around the world, and I just want to keep repeating my message. We buy more products off the U.S. than China and Japan and Korea and France and UK. Then I got another one. They threw Mexico in there too. So folks, we're a powerhouse, and the talent here in Canada is second to none. I'll put our 41 million people against anyone in the world.
Okay. Hi, Premier.
Hi, Rob.
Rob Ferguson, Toronto Star. Just wondering, after what you were saying this morning about dollar-for-dollar retaliation,
Yes.
Are you the only Premier? Are you the Lone Ranger on that?
No, I don't believe so. You always have to be cautious. You don't want to trigger a complete war, but the only thing I believe with President Trump and Secretary Lutnick that I've seen, you have to be tough. If you're weak, they will run us over like you've never seen before. They prey on weakness. Well, we aren't weak, and we have no reason to be weak. We're a superpower, and we need to show them our strengths. When President Trump says we don't need Canada, well, we all know he needs Canada. We know it desperately. They need our energy. They need our electricity. They need so many products here from Canada. So, you know, that's all part of his negotiating tactics. But I just say we hit them hard, dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff. You know, that's what I believe in.
Premier Liam Casey with the Canadian Press. How are you doing?
Good.
You say that everyone agrees you need to move fast on major projects. Yesterday, you did say that you're willing to wait for buy-in from First Nations. So given that, I'm wondering how fast will you move to build the road to the Ring of Fire?
Well, François was at the meeting, and they said, stop talking and let's start moving. They said it 3 or 4 times. And I said, that's great. Yeah, and that all depends on province to province and territories. So, you know, they want to move. And the ones that want to move, we're going to work with them. Ones that don't want to move, that's fine. We just want to continue moving forward. We have 133 First Nations communities. They want prosperity. They want a better life for their children and grandchildren than what they had. They want to be self-reliant. And there's an opportunity to do that right now, unlike I've never seen before. So there's tremendous opportunities.
This will be the last reporter.
Hi, Premier. Isaac Callan, Global News. I want to ask about the national wildfire response. Ontario currently doesn't have enough pilots for its water bombers. There are bases without enough crews in Ontario. Is this a case of asking the federal government to bail out or backstop a program you've not invested enough in?
Yeah, I don't think it's a financial situation. First, de Havilland, you order water bombers, and we have a number of water bombers on order. It takes 4 years. So I put a little nudge with Premier Smith and said, you got to talk to your folks over at de Havilland. They're in Alberta, training up pilots. We have lots of pilots, but you have to also understand you just can't have any pilot with these water bombers. And then we have the helicopters too that carry a tremendous amount of water as well. So I think it's all hands on deck. But what happens every single year, and we know it's going to happen, there's wildfires right across the country. A lot of Ontario firefighters and resources went into Manitoba to help out. So everyone's pitching in. But we have a large country. Ontario alone is 1,070,000 square kilometers. And we need to have as many resources as possible. And it'd be nice to have a national program. And everyone also has a provincial program, but a national program that when this happens, no matter if it's flooding, we know every year there's going to be floods, and we know every year there's going to be wildfires. The other part about the wildfires is it's multiple areas that we can do, but we have to start harvesting the forest properly. This is one part of it, what causes a lot of these wildfires. And as Premier Wobb said up in Manitoba, just around Flin Flon, is that it? Fin Flon, one of that. But anyways, they fought off 300,000 hectares. Just a small group of firefighters. And so we need a national program that we can call on the resources. And no one takes care of the forest better than the forest sector. They want to replant. They want to harvest these trees, and it makes a big barrier in between. If a forest fire is happening there, and then you harvest this over here, and then you replant, because we lose hundreds of thousands of square kilometers every year for nothing. It's terrible. We should be using that lumber.
That concludes our press conference.
No, we're going to see you tonight.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to have a great time. Thank you for everything. I want to thank our premiers, thank the Prime Minister. I want to thank the media. You do a fantastic job getting the message out there, and it's all Team Canada right now. So. Okay, so full disclosure, Prime Minister stayed at my place. We had dinner. We were up till 12:30 at night, chatting in front of the fireplace, solving all the world's problems.
And he's got a very nice small chalet.
Yeah, yeah. I have a little shack up and down the street there. And do you know what it is? Yeah, I'm telling you, I haven't known him for long, but the Prime Minister is the most humble person you'd ever want to meet. Let me just give you a little background. Now you got me on a roll here. Okay, the Prime Minister was a Goldman Sachs guy. He worked on Bay Street. He was the chair of Brookfield, which I think is close to $1 trillion fund. Chair of Bloomberg, everyone knows Bloomberg. Bank of Canada governor, Bank of England governor. He has never said that in his entire time I've known him. He doesn't do that. He's very humble. He listens. He's a smart business person. And I always tell my business owners, who would you give the keys to? I'd hand the keys to a business over to the Prime Minister. He's business-minded. He has his hands full because of the last 10 years of what has happened in our country. He's playing cleanup right now, and we're going to be there to support him. But he's a very good man. He's off to a good start. He's an honest man, too. He just wants the best for Canada. He doesn't need to be doing this, I can assure you that. But he's given it everything he possibly can. And I think that's a consensus around the table. He's trying. He's a very smart, shrewd businessman. But thank you, everyone.
Thank
you. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you and to share a little bit about New Brunswick's perspective on the meetings that we've had so far with the First Ministers and the Council of the Federation. Really encouraged would be how I would describe my takeaway from hearing from the Prime Minister and Minister LeBlanc about how they're strategizing and planning to attack the tariffs and the current evolving situation with the U.S. New Brunswick feels well represented and pleased to see that softwood lumber is in the conversation at the table. Clearly, that's an issue for our industry. We're also pleased to see that the work with China hasn't been pushed to the side because those tariffs are affecting our seafood industry. And we also were pleased to have the opportunity to share with our colleagues as we all seek to buy more Canadian and support the Canadian economy, that I could, when Premier Ford is looking for locally manufactured I-beams, we have those in New Brunswick and some of our structural steel fabricators. So it's creating some opportunities for us to do more business with ourselves. And that's the opportunity in all of this. New Brunswick has a lot to offer the country in terms of our modular housing fabrication expertise, in terms of our critical minerals, in terms of our energy infrastructure, in terms of our ports that are moving goods all across the rest of the country. And we remain optimistic about the ability of this government in partnership with our government to move projects of national interest forward with speed, with responsible action, and in ways that are going to strengthen the New Brunswick economy, create opportunities for New Brunswick workers, and strengthen the whole country. Alors, je suis heureux à ce point du progrès qu'on a fait avec les discussions avec le Premier ministre, avec les autres Premiers ministres, le ministre Leblanc du stratégie fédérale au niveau de notre réponse aux tarifs. Clairement, c'est une situation imprévisible, mais nous autres, on a du confiance dans le Premier ministre qu'il va agir d'une façon qui va protéger l'économie canadienne et qui va protéger les intérêts du Nouveau-Brunswick. Nous sommes vraiment heureuses de voir que les enjeux de forestières du Nouveau-Brunswick sont sur la table. Nous sommes heureuses de voir que la réalité des tarifs qui viennent de la Chine ne sont pas oubliés parce qu'il y a des impacts sur notre secteur d'aquaculture. Puis, nous avons pris l'opportunité de parler de l'opportunité d'agrandir l'économie canadienne quand le Premier ministre Ford parlait d'un manque de I-beams en Ontario. Il n'avait pas d'accès à une solution canadienne, mais je pouvais partager avec lui et tous les autres premiers ministres qu'on crée des I-beams en Nouveau-Brunswick. Puis le même s'est fait par Manitoba qui crée du rebar. Alors l'opportunité d'acheter canadien, de fortifier notre économie, de travailler ensemble de meilleure façon est là. tant que l'opportunité de fortifier notre économie par avancer des gros projets d'intérêt national avec une vitesse qu'on n'a pas vue auparavant. Alors, Nouveau-Brunswick a plusieurs projets au niveau de nos minéraux critiques, au niveau de notre système d'énergie, notre port de Saint-Jean qui partage les produits d'un côté de la pays à l'autre, puis aussi notre fabrication de logements qui va nous aider dans la crise de logements abordables qu'on fait face comme un pays. Alors, avec ça, je vais dire que je suis vraiment heureux des discussions qui ont passé aujourd'hui. Il n'y a pas de clarté ou prévisibilité de qu'est-ce qui va venir demain avec le président des États-Unis, mais on est une bonne équipe forte au gouvernement fédéral, puis une équipe canadienne forte des premiers ministres qui travaillent ensemble pour protéger et fortifier notre économie. So we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Hey, good afternoon, Premier. I didn't think I-beams would be the star of the show,
Right?
by the way, but here we are. I wanted to ask about tariffs. There seem to be divergent opinions about whether or not a deal could actually be reached. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what should happen if there isn't a deal? Premier Doug Ford suggested that there should be retaliatory tariffs matching what the U.S. applies to Canada. Other premiers say they want a wait-and-see approach to see what other solutions the Carney government can come up with. Where do you stand? Do you think retaliatory tariffs are the right approach?
Well, we have them in place right now in order to match the steel tariffs that the U.S. put in place, and to hypothesize about what Trump might do and thus how we might respond is pretty risky because he's very hard to predict. But I'm certainly confident that with the ambassador, the minister, and the prime minister, they have a lot of tools at their disposal. We have quite an arsenal that each province has offered up to say, look, here are the exposure points that the U.S. has to our provinces. Here are some tools we could use should they be needed. And I trust that we have the team in place that's going to get the best deal possible for the Canadian economy. But we also have to look at, is it a deal better than what we have right now, and is the timing right? And so there's a lot of complex factors here, and figuring out that what deal when, and when can we put a stop to this and provide the certainty that our economy and business community needs. Because that's really, regardless of the level of tariff or how it's exposed, it's the question of whether it's sticky and whether we have reached a point where things will stop changing. It's the uncertainty and the unpredictability that is freezing investment and freezing employment in my province. And so when can we get to a point where we're all comfortable saying, okay, we're going to stay here for the next little bit, and we have some sort of faith that the president will also stay in that deal.
When it comes to those tools, can you give us an example of what may have been proposed today with the Prime Minister? I don't know if there were new tools that were proposed today, and how do you prevent the same reaction that Ontario received when we cut off energy to the United States, which was a fairly visceral reaction from the United States?
It's the same conversation we've been having since December, right? Talking about exposure points on energy, on lumber, on, well, for us, it's versions of petroleum products that support both the jet fuel that goes to the American military. New Brunswick supplies almost 100% of that for states on the eastern seaboard. We keep the lights on in Massachusetts and in Boston. Obviously, we provide a significant amount of seafood to that marketplace, and right now is when they need it most. And we're seeing the U.S. react to some of Canada's decisions. They've reacted very sensitively to the fact that Canadians aren't traveling to their country right now. And we're seeing the ambassador react to that, and governors react to that. They're reacting to the fact that we don't have their booze on our shelves, and they're getting irritated. We need that irritation to get bigger and louder such that it influences the president's decision to move away from the kind of tariffs that are harming his economy and creating the kind of inflation that's hurting Americans. So we have a lot of tools at our disposal, different things. We've talked about potash, we've talked about mineral deals that might have been in the works and are now up in the air because we have other partners we could trade with, and we want the U.S. to understand that. We have other partners we could trade with. We could get along without them. They don't seem to think that's the case, but understanding that there's a whole world of defense contractors out there, and there's a whole world of people who want what Canada has and what New Brunswick has. So those are some of the tools, our assets, our resources, the amazing things that we build in this country that allow us to build some leverage into the negotiations.
Hey, Premier Isaac Callan, Global News. I want to ask about the Fire and Emergency National Response Program. How would adding that at a federal level impact New Brunswick? And is this the province is asking the feds for a bailout on another file?
It's a new one that we started discussing in light of the fires that are being experienced across a lot of provinces, and New Brunswick firefighters have been out there and a part of that firefighting effort in Manitoba and in the Yukon and beyond. And so we started the conversation on what provinces need to be able to respond as quickly as possible, and what level of coordination is helpful and what level isn't, and what role the federal government can play to make sure that all of us, municipalities that are faced with it, provinces that are faced with it, and the federal government's support can be coordinated most efficiently so that we can have faster response and we can keep people safer in the face of what's proving to be an annual event. So we've started the conversation. Our ministers are going to continue it because there is nuance around building codes and around some other things that we need to work out. Early days.
Hi, Mickey here with Politico. We've started to hear the premiers and prime minister talk today following the meeting that they're more focused on a good deal than they are necessarily the timeline. How confident are you that we'll see a deal on August 1st?
Well, I think you've picked up on it. We want a good deal, not a fast deal. And we don't want to make a fast deal at the expense of a good deal. And so I think that's the realization that we've come to, and seeing how things have moved with other countries and other jurisdictions that don't have the kind of deals that we would want to replicate. But they got them, and they got them faster. And so there is a sense now that we're not going to get a deal at all costs for August 1st, and we've encouraged the Prime Minister to not make a deal at all costs. It's to get the right deal. And the best possible deal for our whole country, which is obviously big and complex and diverse with an economy that varies from coast to coast to coast. So I think the timeline is of lesser importance than the substance of the deal and the impact of the tariffs and what we agree to and what we hold the line on.
Boris Proulx, Le Devoir. Le premier ministre du Québec, François Legault, était au podium il y a quelques minutes et il a parlé des pipelines. Il s'est dit ouvert aux pipelines, mais uniquement si c'est pour mener à un port situé au Québec et non pas pour bouger l'énergie vers les provinces de l'Atlantique, donc chez vous. Je me demande comment est-ce que vous prenez ça quand une province établit des conditions comme ça sur un projet d'intérêt national?
Dans les conversations que j'ai eues avec le premier ministre Legault, il parle de vouloir voir un bénéfice économique pour le Québec. Alors, si on peut démontrer que le pipeline que le Nouveau-Brunswick cherche, qui va se rendre de Québec aux frontières du Nouveau-Brunswick, 100 km, puis après ça, 300 km dans le Nouveau-Brunswick pour que notre industrie peut avoir accès à un gaz naturel. Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont besoin? C'est qui va avoir un impact positif d'un pipeline comme ça pour le gaz naturel? Je suis certain que le monde de Rivière-du-Loup serait intéressé d'avoir accès à leur gaz naturel dans leur coin. Mais M. Legault veut savoir, mais c'est quoi les bénéfices? C'est quoi les retombées qu'on va recevoir d'un projet comme ça? Alors ça, c'est la question à répondre avant qu'il veut continuer la discussion.
Combien proche vous êtes prête à inscrire un projet de pipeline Nouveau-Brunswick-Québec?
Ben ça ne va pas être demain. Le travail continue avec le secteur privé qui est responsable pour le gaz naturel et l'opportunité, avec M. Legault et la communauté en Québec, puis avec le Nouveau-Brunswick aussi.
Bonjour, Louis Lacroix de Cogeco Nouvelles. Mais je veux juste comprendre, compléter la réponse. Quand M. Legault dit que ça doit passer nécessairement par un port qui est au Québec, est-ce que vous êtes d'accord avec ça ou si...
Mais je pense que lui parle de pipeline de l'huile. Nous autres, on parle d'un pipeline de gaz naturel. Alors, pour la question de l'huile qui essaye d'aller à un port du Nord ou peut-être à Manitoba ou Churchill, lui, il essaye de le convaincre de venir dans un de ces ports. Pour nous autres, c'est une conversation différente parce que c'est un pipeline qui existe, qui se rend juste à Québec, et c'est une question de 100 km qui veulent retourner aux frontières du Nouveau-Brunswick, et c'est un pipeline de gaz naturel. Alors, c'est une discussion un petit peu différente parce qu'il n'y a pas un port à Québec qui peut avoir le gaz naturel. Ils n'ont pas comment est-ce qu'on dit, les LNG, les infrastructures pour supporter ce type de mouvement-là. Alors, c'est deux conversations différentes.
Merci.
Hi, Premier. Christine Dobby here from Bloomberg. You talk about wanting to get a good deal, and I'm wondering if you can talk at all about whether you have any concerns that negotiations right now may be including limiting the exceptions that we've seen under CUSMA compliant goods, any erosion of that?
That's absolutely a concern, right? We're looking to improve our trade terms with the U.S. and Mexico and make sure that the next USMCA is better than the previous one. And so we absolutely want that to eliminate the barriers to free trade between New Brunswick companies and goods and the U.S. But also we have some advantages that are in place that we'd like to continue. And so, as does the U.S. for that matter. We want to make sure it's a stronger and better deal. But the terms have changed and the global terms have changed. And so we've picked up leverage with our relationships with companies and countries in the European Union. We've developed since the signing of CUSMA a different kind of resource economy and further strength that we're going to enhance, particularly in defense. The amount of defense investment that the Prime Minister is talking about making changes the game a bit in terms of how we engage with U.S. industry and how the role that Canada can play and what the U.S. is seeking to achieve. So it'll be a different deal. We want to see it be stronger, and certainly New Brunswick's interested in having unfettered access to the U.S. market that's tariff-free.
Are you concerned about any of those exceptions or the, being eroded at this point in time? You know, maybe not on August 1st, but as we get towards whatever this deal does look like.
Right now, the one that's in front of us the most is softwood lumber, because there is a schedule for the increase to softwood lumber tariffs, and we'd like to see those on the table so that we can secure a future without tariffs on softwood lumber. And so there's been some new conversations about quota and thresholds that might get us closer to that environment where we have lower tariffs on softwood lumber than the proposed increases that more than double the tariffs that are in place right now in the short term. So that's the one that's the most pressing, that we don't want those 35% tariffs to come into place, and we think that there's a path to negotiate something better.
Hello, Premier. My name is Manan Gupta from Road Today and South Asian Unlimited. My question is related to the immigration numbers. The New Brunswick government, under your leadership, you were able to renegotiate with the federal government and add 1,500 new seats under the provincial nominee program. What do you think is the right number, appropriate number for a province like New Brunswick, which wants to welcome newcomers, but at the same time finding it challenging to have them, start new innings of life?
I appreciate that question very much. Thank you. I will flag that those 1,500 seats aren't exactly new because we're still not up to the level of PNP seats that we used to have before the federal government cut those in half. And so we made some comeback with those 1,500 additional PNP, but we're still not back to our levels from 2024 or previously. So we're still seen the impact that that's having on our province, because that includes healthcare workers, that includes construction trades workers, people who are helping us tackle some of the biggest crises that our province is facing. And we need more of those nurses and doctors and personal support workers, and we need more of those home builders and tradespeople, and we need more people to help continue to grow the economy in New Brunswick. So we're going to continue to work with the feds to get a higher level. What's the right number? That's a great question. We've got a lot of demand for labor to support the growth that we want to see in our economy. And so our previous level had been 5,500. I think we can accommodate more than that if they're helping us to build the homes and deliver the care that New Brunswickers deserve.
So is it going to be part of the one Canadian economy deal, like what we are talking about, listening about?
I'm not aware that the One Canadian Economy deal includes immigration. There's a different table and a different minister for that. The Prime Minister certainly indicated his openness to talking with the provinces about PNPs, because New Brunswick is not the only province that is experienced to these challenges. And so I think those will be conversations to come, but a little bit separate from Bill C-5.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Merci.